all, this is Jasmine J with the Business Umbrella here with the Let's Talk Business podcast. This season is called All Things Real Estate, and we talk about how you can use real estate as a tool to build generational wealth. So today I have a special guest, and I will let her introduce herself. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Deidra Ewing on social media, and I am just super excited to be here. I was talking a little bit earlier. I get a chance to juggle a lot of hats, and one of them is real estate, so I'm super humbled to be talking with you guys today.
So, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you come from, and how did you get into real estate, and even some of the other things you do.
Ooh, oh, Lord. Okay, so a little bit about myself. I am a full-time mother of two, also full-time wife. I get a chance to, I don't feel like I do real estate full-time, but it really is because I'm getting calls all throughout the day, and I'm also a leader within the criminal justice system. So I have a full-time 8 to 5. I get a chance to help the community within that aspect, as well as real estate and taking care of my clients on that, and as well as my team, because I get a chance to be a team lead within my current brokerage as well. Some of the things that I get a chance to do on the side is crazy. I do a little bit of podcasting on the side.
Okay, whoop, whoop.
I know, I love it. So, and I've also written 2 books. My first book is called Dash. It's on Amazon. It was an Amazon bestseller back in 2018. And I also have a book that's coming out right now. It should be hitting, you guys are going to hear this first, it should be hitting Amazon and Barnes & Noble by December the 1st. So, super excited about that. I got a chance to do that pilot with 3 other authors that I've been working with for years. So, I'm super excited about that project. So yeah, between kids, husband, boss at work, boss in leadership, juggling team leads, I'm just here.
You know what? So before we go into real estate, let's just talk a little bit about that. I think it's very important to just be transparent and talk about where we really are. So you sound like Superwoman. I can relate though. But what is that like for you? Like trying to juggle all of that. What is that like? Are there days that you just are done?
Absolutely. There are a lot of days that I just, you can find me in the middle of the floor in a fetal position just telling everybody to leave me alone, but it looks good for social media, you know? So, and that's one of the things about that work-life balance. Like, you have to still project the things that you're doing so that you can continue to market yourself and get the clients. However, that balance is really tapping out and asking for help and taking those days off to really just to take care of yourself.
So do you feel like real estate, you getting into real estate, do you feel like that will help you kind of with your balance? Like, do you ever, so I guess the real question I'm asking, do you plan on doing real estate full time at any point?
You know, I don't. So a little bit of my background is MLM. I did MLM. For people who don't know, that's multi-level marketing. I did MLM for 8 years. I ended up, I called it firing my boss. That was my brand back then because I was able to triple my income and I left my full-time career. So during that time, I did 4 years of 100% entrepreneurship, and I don't think that I handled it well. Like, I feel like my ego got a little bit big. I talked about people who had an 8 to 5. I lost myself, just to be honest. So I ended up going back to work. My husband's actually the one who talked me into coming into real estate. He's in architecture and development. And he had always told me, like, hey, like, you're really good at sales, like, you're really good with talking with people. Why don't you switch from MLM and come over to real estate? And I told him no for, like, 3 years.
Like, nah, I'm not
I didn't
doing
want to
that.
do it. I didn't want to add anything else to my plate. But I ended up saying yes, and I went to real estate school. I went to Champion School of Real Estate, and I found that the skills that I learned with building my business in MLM, it was the same thing in real estate. So whenever I went back to work, I promised myself that I was going to stay a minimum of 4 years. I wanted to reach a certain salary because that's what all the books told me to do, set your goals out, you know. And I've been back in my daytime career for 3.5 years, and I've promoted 4 times since I've been back in my career.
Wow.
So I've actually exceeded the income of what I wanted in my daytime career. So I'm like, if I'm able to do real estate, do my full-time job, continue to promote, like, why not? I give that up? And it's crazy that most of the transactions that I've been getting in real estate are people that I'm working with in the daytime.
Yeah.
So they have easier access to me. So if I'm able to sell everybody a house, like I look at my daytime career as an opportunity to build my real estate business.
Makes sense.
If I'm showing up here and I'm doing a fantastic job, I'm building a relationship with you, you're going to know that I'm a realtor because that's a piece of our relationship and our conversation. Those people are coming to me asking me to sell them their house or to help them invest or whatever it is. So I see it as an equal playing field. Might as well use that piece as a stepping stone to build my real estate business too.
You smart, sis.
I do what I can.
So how long have you been into real estate?
I've been in for 3 years. Like I said, my husband, he's architecture and development. Like, he was the expert in this industry well before I was. But I would always listen to the conversations. And I'm the person that's like, well, what does it mean whenever this happens?
Right.
And I was kind of like the intern listening to him, and I picked it up. So just physically licensed 3 years, but I feel like I've been learning behind him for a really long time.
Yeah. That's when you're exposed to certain things and then you realize later on that, man, I've really been learning this for a long time. I've said in many of the real estate episodes, I bought my first home when I was 19 years old. And it was right after the crash, and so I was able to get a home that was foreclosed on for really, really cheap, but I made it my starter home with my family. I was getting married, I was pregnant, I had a child. It was the perfect thing. Mm-hmm. And then 5 years later, I sold the home, got a good equity out of it, and then I temporarily did some other things, and then I purchased another home. And then after that, I'm getting equity out of that. I just kept, I'm repeating that over and over, but I realized that's because that's something I was exposed to when I was younger. My mother would always tell me about real estate, about how you can get a home and making sure you have equity in it, and she gave me as much information as she had at the time, and I realized today, like, when you're kind of exposed to something early on, that kind of stays in the back of your head. So I can understand you saying, yes, I have a license for 3 years, but I've probably been doing real estate for a while, being
exactly
that
right.
You've been working, you've been with your husband. So what was that like when you made up your mind to go get my license? What was that experience like for you?
To me, it was a no-brainer. I know I'm one of those people, I'm a visionary, so I always cast myself at the end of the year for most part. Sometimes it's at the end of 5 years, and I play backwards, like what is this going to look like, right? Like, I see the finish line, but what is it going to take in order to get to what it is that I'm seeing at the end of this finish line? So at that first year, I knew I wanted to make, because I was leaving MLM, or I was transitioning out of that, and I was making like $7,000 to $8,000 a month off of MLM. So I knew that at the end of that year, I wanted to make at least $50K by the end of that year. So I was like, okay, so what's the fastest way to do that? My husband has been talking about real estate, so I jumped into real estate. And I knew like what the commission and stuff was going to look like. So how many homes can I sell in order to get this amount of income? To me, it was a no-brainer. I didn't have to hustle and get a bunch of customers like I was whenever I was doing with MLM. At the end of it, I just needed to do 12 transactions.
Right.
Like, I can find
you broke
12
this
people.
down,
Yeah. That's the piece of being a visionary. Again, just really seeing the big picture and what it is that I want to get done, and I break it down into smaller increments so that I'm not as stressed, because, of course, everything else is going on, too.
You know what? I think that's a great strategy to have. I, too, do the same thing. If I see something, I'm very persistent. So if I really want to do it, I already know I'm going to do it.
Absolutely.
So if I say, hey, this is going to happen in 5 years, in 5 years, this is going to happen. Like,
yes.
For sure. But then the stress comes because how am I going to make that happen in 5 years? So then, yes, sitting down, writing it down and breaking it down. Say, okay, year 1, I want to at least be here. What do I need to do to get here? Then I focus on that. Then year 2, kind of like even with the podcast, this podcast started, I got on Instagram and I said, anybody know anything about podcasting? Because I knew I was going to start a podcast. Didn't know how, where, who, but I knew I was going to start a podcast. And so I put on there, anybody know anything about podcasting? I got a message, and then I started to figure out how can we make this happen. In a few months, we was dropping season 1.
Wow.
So I just want to second that I too am a visionary, and I think it's very important to sit down and write out what it's going to take to get to that final picture.
Absolutely. That's the only way to go. Like, some people, they do it in reverse order, and they're like, hey, I want to get this done, and then they start moving. I encourage people all the time to, what is this going to look like if your goal is to make $100,000 at the end of this year, what does it look like to get there?
You're right. What are your steps?
How much you got to make each week? How many products you got to push? What's the price of that? Like all of the above, all the way down to the day. So I used real estate like that, and at that time it was like I needed 12 transactions. I was like, okay, I can find 12 people who want to buy a house, and it happened.
Wow. You make it sound so simple. That's amazing, though. That's really what it takes. If you break it down and figure out exactly what do I need to get to this goal, and then you just slowly start to execute.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so being in real estate so far, let's talk a little bit about generational wealth. How do you see real estate, from your perspective, being used as a tool to build generational wealth?
So one of the things that has always been on my bucket list, and I don't want to say always, was that I wanted to create some level of freedom for my children, right? I didn't grow up with a silver spoon by far. It's actually a whole lot of trauma in there that I wrote about in my books that I'm using to kind of help people process and get out of it. But my philosophy on life is just to create a level of freedom. Right? So one of the goals that me and my husband put together was to definitely purchase a house for both of our kids. We have those houses now, whereas we are renting those properties out to other people. So the extra income that we get from both of those, so of course, like there's a mortgage there, right?
Right.
And like the tenant is paying a little bit more than that, but the extra amount of income, that automatically goes over to our kids. So the generational wealth is already, it's being built now. Right. So like my son's 8, my daughter's 4, they both got a house, and that revenue that's only gonna continue to increase, that's going straight over to their bank account so that they don't have to worry about paying for college unless they want to.
Right.
You know, but it just kind of helps set them up for success. So generational wealth to me, purchasing those 2 homes or however many you want to have for your kids, but definitely one for each kid so that the money's growing on its own and I don't have to save for them because it's already there.
So let's talk about the actual, like the viewers. So say they want to purchase a home, right? They've never done this before. This is a new process for them, but they want to purchase themselves a home before they can even start to think about generational wealth. What is your advice to them? Like, what are some of the first steps? What are some of the first things that they need to do?
For a first-time home buyer, definitely getting your credit score together. I want to be as timeless as possible, but the number right now, if you're watching this in 2021, in fall, the average credit score right now is around 600. If your credit score is together, they're definitely going to be looking for what they call it your DTI, your debt to income ratio. But at my brokerage, we get a chance to kind of point you to the lenders that are going to help you not only understand your buying power, but to also tell you how much you need to be saving, and to let you know if you're able to even start the process right away, or they'll roadmap you so that you can purchase your home within the time frame that it is that you need to increase your income or increase your credit score.
Wow. You know what? I never knew that. I haven't purchased a home in a while, but back then, who I was using, they just sold me a home. It was no, it was no planning. It was no sitting down, let me see where you at. It was like, what's your credit score? Okay, that's good enough. Let's buy your home. Picture up. I'm going to bring you a bottle of champagne. That's
no. Not anymore. For myself and within my brokerage, and me and my husband, like we're within a brokerage called Legacy Homes and Properties. But me and my husband, we've also created a separate brand for ourselves. That's Ewing Living. But we value ourselves on educating people in the process. So when you educate people, it reduces their stress, right? And it also helps them feel more confident, not only in you as their realtor with that trust process, but to also pass you over to other people too. One of the business tips that I always give to people, even whenever I was doing MLM, is to not just focus on the sale that's right in front of you.
Right.
You have to be the visionary and be focused on the sale that they're going to go tell to the next 10 people.
Oh, wow.
So if you treat your client as if they're going to go tell 10 other people, your work ethic will be a little bit different.
So where do you feel your work ethic comes from? I know that has nothing to do with real estate, but I'm just amazed at all that you're able to do and manage. Where does that come from?
Thank you for that. I didn't grow up, again, with the silver spoon in my mouth. I'm very transparent with my walk with my parents. My father, he's still on the streets of Houston, Texas right now. He's homeless, so he's not one of the aggressive types. He's not going to beat down your window. But my father is homeless. My brother is also homeless. So just kind of growing up not having things and wanting more, I feel like not only am I running from my past, but I tell my husband that I'm the reset button, right? So, like, I got a chance to see what it looked like not having things, so I want to make sure that my kids don't have things. So there's a video on YouTube. I'll have to, like, share it, but it shows, like, multiple people standing at one starting line, and it's like if you had two parents that did well, you get the chance to take a step forward. If you never had to change schools, then you get a chance to move forward.
A little further.
Yeah, and it shows everybody's true starting line. And sometimes I watch that video and I'm like, man, that's me, because I never took any of those steps.
Yeah.
And all these people are in front of me. So my work ethic comes from knowing that I missed out on all those things. So I'm going to pass up everybody.
Yeah, I'm coming.
I cannot be outworked. That's what I tell myself, and that's what I feed myself every day. So when you create that mentality within yourself, nothing can stop you.
I just want to take a time and just clap for you,
okay,
sis? Because
right
this is really what it is. Because for myself, I really haven't. A lot of my guests have been men, so to have a woman on set and be able to just really be relatable, growing up, I had my parents were divorced, but my parents both have done well for themselves individually, but they were divorced, and for a very long time they were not friends. Mm-hmm. And so I had my first child when I was 17 years old, and I was getting ready 4 months before I graduated from high school. And she, to me, is like the biggest blessing, because she brought my family back together. And so, although when I think about that, I'm sure there are some things that were in place that gave me a few steps. There were also some things that took me back.
Absolutely.
Took me back. And I remember when I got pregnant, I told my family, don't even talk to me about doing anything different other than having this baby, because this is something that I believe in. This is what I'm going to do. But I promised them it wasn't going to stop me. Mm-hmm. I was still going to graduate from high school. I was still going to be successful. I was still going to be who they have raised me to be. It was just that I have a child, so we're going to do it together.
Yes.
And then I got pregnant again. And, having 3 children at a very, very young age, it has made things very challenging for me. But I always felt like, if I want it, I'm going to go get it. Period. Because the only one that's going to stop me from getting there is me.
It's you.
So if I have children, then oh well. I got to prep bottles and get bags together and do whatever I need to do and go to college and get my education. I got to go to work. I got to go home and take care of kids. Where at 24, I had 3 children by the age of 24. Wow. 24 of my friends were living their best college life, and at that time, I didn't realize it, but I realize now I was envy of the freedom that they had. But everybody's story is for them. And so my children are my biggest motivation.
Period.
And I know that today I am where I am because of some of the things I went through my past. Because trauma, girl, we just line it out and roll it all on the floor.
That's a whole other conversation.
Right, it definitely is. But it plays a part into who we are today and the work ethic that we give. So for any of our viewers, if you've been through things, life has not always been easy for you, you've had some major setbacks, do not give up. Mm-hmm. You don't have to give up. All you have to do, readjust the game plan or come up with a game plan.
Yes.
But if you want to get somewhere, you can do it no matter what you have in front of you. You just have to find your way on how you can get there, considering where you are today.
Absolutely. So, you're actually touching on the book that we wrote. It's like what all 4 authors and your conversation right now is letting people know, like, your piece, every piece of your life is a piece of your purpose. So how do you use that piece? I like to describe it just like having, how like whenever you first buy a puzzle and it has a little picture right there on the box.
Right, it shows you how to put it together. Shows you what it's going to look like.
What it's going to look like, but life isn't like that. It's just the pieces itself with no box.
Right.
So you have to play around with those puzzle pieces to see how they fit, but at the end of the day, the picture that's on the box is which is your life, it's going to come out the same. You just got to play around with the pieces.
Right.
So if you had babies early, if you had a horrible childhood, whatever it is, play around with the pieces. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we all know that our own box, our life, our picture, it's all going to turn out right. It doesn't matter the order. It doesn't matter how all them pieces are in the bag. Just put them pieces together.
There we go. So, back to real estate.
All right.
So, for someone who's trying to get into real estate, and not necessarily to become a realtor, if they want to invest, all the different ways, start flipping homes, do you feel like they need a real estate license?
I don't.
Or a realtor license?
I don't. I think that they definitely they need to know somebody who is in real estate so that they can coach them to success. You don't have to have it your own. If you want to, that's great, because it's only going to enhance your life. But if you don't, definitely have somebody that you trust that's already a realtor that's going to be able to coach you from start to finish throughout the process.
So did you have a mentor in your process? In your process, did you have a mentor?
I do. I'm a big believer in mentorship. And I see mentorship as somebody who's just more experienced than I am. So I have a mentor in my daytime career as well as in real estate. In real estate, I think you may have interviewed him somewhere along the lines, but his name is, we call him Broker Bowles. Like, I've been knowing him since the second grade. So even while I was running MLM, I was watching him building in real estate, and I was like, well, that looks interesting.
Right.
Like, he's killing it. So whenever my husband talked to me about coming into real estate, I already knew who to call. He had already shown everybody on social media and in real life that he was successful, so it was an easy call to be like, hey, Balls, like, I'm coming into real estate, what do I need to do?
Right.
And from then, like, I literally hold him hostage on the phone to help answer
like, hey,
questions.
I need this information.
I'm trying to grow, so what do I need to do from here? So, yes, short answer, I hands down believe in mentorship in any aspect of your life.
Do you have any mentees?
I do. I have a bunch of mentees. Back in the day, whenever I was doing those 4-year break of full entrepreneurship, like, I taught 7,000 people how to grow their multi-level marketing business. So breaking from that, I switched over into simply small business coaching, and that's how this book came about. Me and the other 3 ladies were doing workshops. Like, I reached out because I wanted a holistic perspective, because women to me are like, and no shade to guys, but like, women were very multidimensional.
Yeah.
We have to switch hats sometimes in the blink of an eye. Like, if my child walked up, I would have to switch into mommy hat, But I reached out to 3 other women. I wanted one to really focus on mental health. I had another one that I wanted to focus on spiritual health, and another one on physical health. And my role is like business goals, ambition, period. Like, that's my energy. So collaboratively, we were doing workshops called The Perfect Woman. And one of the mental health expert was like, hey, why don't we turn this workshop into a book? So we used to have those workshops with all the mentees so that they can grow their businesses and grow in those 4 domains. But now we want to reach the masses by turning this thing into a book now. So hopefully we'll get a chance to not only help people read so that they can become mentees in that aspect too, but to also start coming back out to workshops in 2022 so that they can get that face-to-face.
Shout out to you and the other women. Okay. So, with real estate, you say you're a mother. Mm-hmm. So, I know we talked about generational wealth and from that aspect, but do you expose your children to real estate?
Absolutely. So, my daughter, her name is Ari. She's 5. I actually bring her to showings and all that kind of stuff with me. And it's funny because sometimes she'll like put on her little toy heels and she'll put on her purse, because that's what I look like when I'm going through real estate.
Right.
And she'll line all her dolls up on the couch and she'll be talking to them like as if she's doing a transaction. And I'll be like, all right, who are you talking to? What are you doing? Or where are you going? And she was like, Mommy, I'm finna go show a house. So it's crazy that like they're picking up on stuff without me sitting down to teach them. But kids are sponges, so they're gonna model what it is that you're showing them, not so much of what you're telling them all the time. But short answer, yes, my kids, they're definitely aware. So what's going on? And my son, like, I'll be in a Zoom and he's like, Mommy, are you in a meeting? So like they know, so I bring them with me to showings, to meetings, all that stuff. If you can sit down and be in a classroom, then you can come sit next to Mommy and understand what your demeanor should look like whenever you're in a business meeting.
Right. My youngest daughter, her name's Joa. She's 9 years old. I was actually inspired by her to start the podcast because for Christmas, she wanted a backdrop, a camera, a microphone. And I'm looking at this stuff and I'm like, and I asked her, I was
watching you.
Well, this is before the show started.
Wow.
And so I was asking her, I was like, this is stuff. Are you gonna start a show or something? She was like, yeah, I'm starting my YouTube channel, Joa's World. And I was like, okay. So I purchased her all the items, and then I had made up my mind I was gonna start podcasting. So I came to sis like, hey, can I use your Christmas gifts so I can start my podcasting? And she, she was with it, and we started podcasting. But when I start bringing her up here to the studio, it just is a different thing. Like when she's at home making her videos, it's not how it was before. Like she's in there and like, yeah, hit subscribe if you like this, and then you can also check out my mom's podcast. And for me, that's what it's all about.
Yes.
I will work hours and hours and hours and try to find this work-life balance all day long if I know my kids can see this and then they can really benefit from it. On season 1, we had a finale. In the finale, we all come, we do this panel, we have vendors there, they selling products, food trucks. It's really a community thing. So I brought my children to season 1, and my son got up there. And he thanked everyone. He was like, I want to thank y'all for coming and getting this information, and anything you want to do, all you have to do is put your mind to it. And he's like doing the closing remarks of my season finale.
Wow.
And I'm like, you know what, God, this is a blessing. Kids are really sponges.
They are.
And they really soak it up. So if you're doing the wrong thing, they're see it.
Soak it up.
You're doing a good thing, they see that too.
Yes.
So generational wealth, man, that's what it's all about. So for viewers that want to start business, I heard you say 4 years straight you was with entrepreneurship. What is your advice to them? Is it hard? Is it fun? Is it great? Is it rewarding? Would you do it all over again?
It's a lot. I would encourage someone to definitely set realistic expectations, and that's in reference to time management, financially, with waves of sales, like just all of the above. I think even with your ego, because remember that was a part of the reason, like I felt like I knew that I was losing myself. For me, clocking in 7 to 8, sometimes 10, 12 grand a month, for me, I felt like I was the stuff.
You was like, oh yeah, this is it.
Yeah, I was like living the life. On top of and I'm doing that by myself, and I don't have nobody telling me when to come and go.
And having that freedom.
Like, I started to feel myself, and for some people who are watching, they're like, "Girl, that I would continue to live that way." But for me, I felt like I needed to check myself. I wanted to be a little more humble, and I get a chance to make that stuff now. It's just a different level. It's a different version of me. Yeah. And that's why I call myself Levels on social media. But
that makes a lot of sense.
For me, I wanted to remain a humble person. I wanted to still be able to pour back into people. I didn't want anybody to feel ashamed for anything. It was, I don't know, lots of different reasons, but definitely, I read a book called The 4-Year Career. I definitely encourage somebody to read that if you decide to jump. And it talks about really setting yourself up financially so that you have space. Like all of your bills, everything is just filled and ready to go for the next 6 months. Okay, right. That's what I used to help navigate my first jump. And I said earlier, like I don't know if I'm ever going to jump to do real estate, but if God told me to jump, then I would.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, so definitely setting yourself up financially. I would say a minimum of 6 months because that's what worked for me. I definitely would not quit that job until that cushion is there. I also like to encourage people to understand the wave of transactions. Like even with real estate, like there's a wave. Like when it's close to the end of the year, people are ready to buy because their mindset is they want to transition into the new year, right? The same way like the wave is with weight loss.
Yeah.
I mean, like our minds are focused on our image at the first of the year because ain't nobody worried about that right now. Right. But just understanding the wave of whatever business it is that you're going to jump into and being financially prepared for that. What else would I tell somebody? Just to be realistic with the goals. Even in real estate now, like I have 13 people that are directly on me and my husband's team. And sometimes I get people who are like, this is my first year of real estate and I want to make $100,000. And that can happen, but how much are you going to work in order to get that? Right. So in reality, if you're going to $100,000, that's X amount of transactions at this sales price. Do you even know people who are ready to purchase a $500,000 home. You know what I mean? So like, it's so many pieces to the puzzle, but with setting those realistic expectations, just have all those puzzle pieces together. So at the end of that year, and you're looking at that picture, you know that you put in every ounce of effort in order to get that done.
So, fear. Let's talk about it. Do you ever experience it?
Not anymore. I actually used to be really quiet. For people who like knew me years ago, they're like, Deidra, I don't even understand like who you are right now. I'm no longer fearful at all. Like I have built enough self-confidence that I'm finna bet on myself, and it's gonna get done, and it's gonna be immaculate, you know?
Yeah.
But I know that there's somebody who's probably listening, like, how do you get there?
Yeah.
I'm really big on self-development. I can't think of the number of books that I've read. I can't think of the number of podcasts that I've listened to. But like I do a power hour every single day, and that's 20 minutes of exercising for myself, right? That's how, if you're exercising for yourself, you're creating that balance. You're going to look better in the mirror, and you're going to feel better on the scale and all of your clothes and all that stuff, right? So I give my body 20% or 20 minutes of my day. My next 20 minutes is to give my mind a little bit of exercise. So I'm going to be reading something. And the next 20 minutes within that power hour is listening to something inspirational. It could be an Eric Thomas. It could be a Sarah Jakes Roberts. It could be anybody. But that's my power hour. It's 20 minutes of each one. For the physical side, for the mental side, and I call it my spiritual side whenever I'm listening to something that's like stirring me up and getting me wired for the day. But I do not let me not say that, because when I'm on vacation, I'm chilling, you know. But like when I'm in work mode, my power hour is non-negotiable.
And I think that's very important. I think that is very important, especially when you're doing entrepreneurship, or even as women trying to balance so much, is that you put in place something for yourself that works, and then you stay committed to it.
Absolutely.
You know, for me, working out is has become a very big thing for me. It's my mental health break. You know, that 1 hour that I'm working out, I'm by myself. I have time away, and I can think. I'm dying. Don't get me wrong.
Yes.
I'm trying to catch my breath, but at the same time, it's teaching me how to continue to fight when I'm tired. You know, it's training my mind. It's definitely training my body, and it's something that I really enjoy doing. And recently, I've started the reading. Like,
wow.
I've set a goal on my phone. I get the books and I read, and every day I want to make sure that I reach that goal.
Something.
And what I realize is, when you are putting yourself in an environment where you're feeding yourself, the outcome is just so much better. When my life is off balance, I look up, I'm been listening to rap music. It's nothing against rap music. I love music, period. I'll run a trap song in a minute.
Yes.
But when that becomes all that I'm consuming, my focus is gone. You know, I get, the vision becomes blurry. I'm like, okay, what am I doing? But I realize I'm not on track in feeding myself what Jasmine needs to be successful. Jasmine needs to first have her conversation with God. Jasmine needs to work out, and then Jasmine needs to feed her brain. And so,
come on,
there you go, girl.
Yes. Yes.
So, you know, before we close up, I just want to give you the opportunity to talk to the viewers about anything you want to share in regards to real estate, in regards to your businesses, and then let them know how they can contact you.
All right. So in reference to real estate, I just, of course, take care of your own personal stuff with taking care of your credit score. But anything from there, like, it's literally endless. It's just a matter of generating more income and using it so that it could amplify yourself, right? Money is just a tool. So how are you going to use that tool? Whether it's pulling out equity from your home, or if you're a first-time home buyer and getting into a first-time home buyer program, whatever it is, it's just using your money as a tool. So you want to definitely reach out to a realtor that's not only going to walk you through the process, but educate you throughout that process too, so that you're confident. Like buying a home, that's one of the first big expenses that you're ever going to do. Yeah. It's costly, right? So you might as well be working with an expert. I call myself your realtor's favorite realtor, because anybody out here, they can sell you a home, but I guarantee you that your realtor reaching out to me for something too. Okay?
I know that's right.
Stuck in my social media or something, but get you a realtor that you can trust. You can reach me on a couple different platforms. So for Facebook, it's Deidra Levels Ewing, or my business page on Facebook is Ewing Living. And on Instagram, it's Deidra_Ewing. And people always ask me, like, do I work on multiple different pages? And I don't. I feel like people buy from who they know, who they like, who they trust. So I don't put all my products on a bunch of different pages. You're just going to come straight to me, and what you see is what you're going to get.
Yeah. That's good you say that, because when I first got started, I thought I needed my personal page, then I have a business page for this business, then I have a business page for this business, and I'm like, girl, this is all you.
It's all you.
It's all you.
It works for some people, so I'm not shading anybody
me
else
neither.
who does it.
Right.
But for me, I'm a one-stop shop. You're going to get my family, you're going to get my friends, you're going to get my turn-up, you're going to get my sales, you're going to get education, you're going to get the inspiration. Like, come on. This is just who I am. All those things are just my pieces. So you can get a chance to see the whole puzzle piece right there on social media.
So I get to add this on that I haven't been able to say in other episodes, but can you give some words of advice, encouragement, or just a shout out to the women out there?
Man, listen, like, women to me are hands down the biggest beasts out here. No shade to the man who may be watching this, but I tell women all the time, like, men are built into a system whereas they automatically have helpmates, and women, we don't, unless you're reaching out and you're outsourcing. And that's when you can go find your own wife, right? Your wife is the person who's going to be taking care of you. But, like, continue to grind. You're not alone. Like, those days when you feel like you're struggling, like, it's okay to feel like you're struggling. Like, we're not perfect. We're imperfectly perfect. So continue to give yourself permission to not only give yourself grace, but other women grace, too, especially if you, like, come on. We're all in this thing together, but just keep pushing. This thing is endless for us.
Well, there's nothing else to say after that. Thank you for chiming in and viewing us today, and thank you for stopping by the Let's Talk Business podcast, and we hope you can come back.
Definitely will.
All right, thank you.